I thought like once you arrive, once you get the thing that you want, like then I'll be happy.
Right. And
then I will have proved it to everyone. Yeah. And I was like, still depressed. Whoa. So it was a very roller coaster.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And after winning an Academy Award, I was like, should I be doing this? Like,
right.
Maybe I'm not good enough if I'm not finding work. It was like some of the most terrifying moments.
On this episode, we have one of my best friends who was also one of my co-directors on our thesis film,
Taking the Plunge.
Lizzie is a CG artist, a CG lead, a director, and a mentor. She is one of the most driven people I've ever met, so much so that she created her own studio with 3 other artists. And she's worked on projects for YouTube, GDC, and Nickelodeon, just to name a few. And I'm so happy to have her here with me today. Here's my friend, Lizzie Herrero.
Yeah.
Hello, my friend.
Nick.
Yeah.
My
welcome.
pal, my buddy.
My buddy, my pal.
That was so sweet.
Aw. Yeah, you are one of the most driven people I've ever met. And
jeez.
Very inspiring all the time.
Oh, my goodness.
So very exciting to have you here today to talk about your career and your life in general and all the things.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
So the 4 of us were thesis partners on a short film that we made as our thesis film at the end of our 4 years at the School of Visual Arts, which is where we went to school. So it was me, you, Marie, and Thaddeus. So it was 4 of us.
Dream team. Well, we started like in the summer.
Right.
Like in those days. I remember for some reason we were like on the floor storyboarding.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where it started.
Yes.
And then it like eventually in classes, like then we were working on it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
We rented out that
journey.
room, the conference room.
Uh-huh.
And I remember all of us were in there at the beginning, but then me and you sat there for like, it felt like a few days and just kept going like, I'm like, okay, how about this angle? And you had the drawing ability.
Yeah.
And you would sit there and you would be like this. And then it was like, like that,
this,
but maybe like this.
Yeah.
And then we would go back and forth with it. And then that was kind of how we storyboarded the film.
Yeah, it was kind of just like straight ahead.
Straight ahead.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we were able to kind of like go from there and start into production and do previs and all that stuff. And anyway, we made the film.
We sure did.
A lot of months.
It did really well.
And the film
we were all like,
the film did really well to our complete surprise.
Yes.
We had no idea because we sat in a dark lab for almost a year making that thing.
Yeah.
And then it went off into the world, and luckily for us, like people picked it up and really seemed to love it like we did. And that was so cool.
So when I went to SVA, because of my tumultuous background, I was like, I'm going to be the best that came out of this school. They're going to remember my name. I was so like, we'll be at top of my class and we'll be this, blah, blah, blah. But then like I met other people after the first like year. It's like, oh, there's like a lot of good people here.
Right.
I was like, oh my God.
But it wasn't necessarily that it was a bad thing. It's just you were driven, which I think is the thing that actually, made us go, oh, she'd be a perfect partner.
But I think what was really handy working with the 3 of y'all is that when we started like bouncing ideas around, it became less about like, I'm gonna make the best thing. It was more like, oh, that was cool.
Right.
And we started to be like, what can we do if we like do this? What if we did this? And it turned more into, like
it became super exciting instead of
it was like it was like, whoa. And then like lo and behold, when you stop trying to be the best and you start having fun, then we win like all the awards.
We were really, really lucky. The film got into multiple festivals. It was in the Student Academy Awards, which is a whirlwind experience to say the least.
Student Emmy,
the college
film,
television
they got a Black
awards.
Cube at the ADC.
Yeah, Black Cube, ADC, Black and Gold Cube at the ADC.
Traveling the world.
We got to go. The 2 of us got to go to Ireland, which was amazing. I got to go to France with some of our other friends. Marie went to Qatar.
Yep.
Everybody went. Thaddeus
was in Japan. I was in Spain.
Yeah.
Where's Big Babu?
That was amazing.
You went to New Jersey?
I went all the far away to New Jersey, the far reaches of New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It took us places for sure.
Yeah.
But then, so I was like, okay, I have done, because I'm a very like get it done. These are all the things that I need. So
Right.
I was like, I have done everything in my power to set myself up for success. There is nothing else I could have done.
Mhm.
Well, this might come back. I didn't get the pup internship, which
Oh,
like at the time, like getting a pup internship
that was the goal.
for animation was like, that is like proof you're like top of the class.
Right.
I feel so
And
guilty saying these things, but like number one.
Right.
And
Well, that was your mentality at the time, right?
yeah.
But the pup internship is what?
The pup internship is, I guess, like a summer apprenticeship at Pixar, where you, I guess, get like a crash course of like working within production there.
Yeah.
And they maybe picked like one a year,
right,
to go from SVA.
Yeah, very exclusive.
My year, they chose one person from our grade and two below us.
Right.
So I was like, ugh! Like, why? What is happening? So yeah, I think by the time we started our film, I was like, this has to be the best. I'm gonna show them they made a bad decision. Anyway, but the film did well.
You were fired up.
And I left SVA being like, I got everything. I did everything I could.
Right.
But unfortunately, like, it didn't map out the way I wanted to.
Sure.
And it was a struggle after school, and had been a struggle.
As it was for a lot of people. But
yeah,
you were
but
kind
like,
of shot out
it was
of it.
like, I went to the moon. Like,
yeah, you were shot out of
if
a cannon.
anyone's gonna like have an easy time finding a job, like it should be the four of us.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And we didn't necessarily.
No.
So we were fortunate.
Yeah.
We did get work right out of the gate. We
Yeah.
started freelancing.
Yeah.
My first gig was at Nathan Love. Yours was as well, right?
Same with Thaddeus.
Right. So we all started there.
Yeah. Marie went to PSYOP.
Marie was at PSYOP. Yeah.
Mhm.
So from there, you started as a freelancer in the city.
Yes.
And what was that like?
What a roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. So it's funny. I feel like the first year, because of not getting the Pixar internship, I was like, I will show them. I was like, I'd rather be a big part of something small than a small part of something big.
You think it's directly because of the Pixar thing?
I feel like,
unfortunately, that was part of...
and this will be
yeah.
sewn into the story, that like a lot of my climb was out of resentment and spite.
Yeah.
Not a good thing. Not a good thing to build a career off of. No. Yeah. So I was like, oh, show them. And so I learned about this guy, Joe Burrascano, that taught and went to SVA, that had started his own studio.
Yeah.
And I was like, that dude is so sick. He's so awesome. He's so driven. He's so hardworking. Like, look at what he built. And I was like, I want to work for that guy.
Yeah.
And so I kind of put all my eggs in my basket of like this one company. I went there just like rearing, ready to go. I was like, I can do anything. I'll do anything. I'll do color scripts. I'll do design. I'll do modeling. I'll do shading. I'll do lighting. Like, I'll do it. Which was really awesome because they needed someone to do that. They had a really tiny team. At the time, their CG team was only 3 people.
Right.
And before that, it had only been 2.
And it makes you super valuable to be a jack of all trades.
For sure. In commercials.
In commercials.
Yeah. So I really I spent a lot of time doing all of the things. And like, I was the kind of person that like, wherever you needed help, like I would jump in, and I would start to look for places to jump in. And I didn't realize how like rare that was in commercials to be able to have the skill set that I had until I then became a lead and I was responsible for bringing people on that I was like, why no one does this? And I was like, oh my God.
So which was great. So you learned that you were valuable in the commercial industry. Sort of.
I still was. And I unfortunately like struggled. I didn't have the best experiences in freelance. I did deal with like a bit of sexism in studios where like I would walk in and like not necessarily at this studio, there were other studios that I would walk in and like a guy would enter and he would say hello to all the men and just like disregard the women. So it was crazy. Like for me trying to like climb up, I was like, if I am here and I'm this woman that is like not being acknowledged, I have to be the best.
Right.
Like I have to be, otherwise I won't survive. And then just like blatant sexism to your face and this kind of stuff.
Oh man.
So it was really complicated because like I was trying to be really good. I was trying to like represent more than myself. What was also really tricky was that like a lot of the times you would have like the grind of having to stay late, but I didn't live in a great area because I wasn't making a ton of money.
Right.
And so going home at night was like extra terrifying.
Yeah.
Because I would look down the table of dudes and they're working late and they're super willing to do it. But like if they go home late, like they statistically have a lower chance of like being like attacked and like violated.
Yeah, it's something that
they're
not even aware of.
They're not thinking of it. So like, and this was really handy. Like, so my partner, Eric Kuna, he's working in the animation industry as well. And like, he's a white man. And we've had a lot of conversations of like, what is your experience entering a studio versus mine? And for him, you know, every time you enter a new studio, it's terrifying. You're just like, oh my God, I hope I do a good job. Like, I hope I'm brought back. I hope I'm an asset.
Yeah, it's like a new day of school.
Yeah,
it's
and
like
it is
school
like
every time you go.
Terrifying that feeling. But also when he would explain that, I was like, what is that like to enter a space and be like, I need to do the best that I can? Because I feel like what I started to do is I felt like if I was in a space that like it felt like they didn't value women or people of color, I felt like I was like, I have to do such an amazing job or this will be another vote cast towards like not believing in women being equal.
You felt like you had to prove yourself for women.
Yes.
In general.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was like, if I do a job, then like, yeah.
So
that
heavy,
was like that
that's a heavy
conversation
load to
of
carry.
like, exactly. And that's not like, I didn't realize how heavy that was.
Right.
I just knew that like it was second nature to me.
Or maybe
and,
even
like,
that it was weighing on you at all.
Yeah.
You know, like that was the thing.
Well, so that is what eventually down the line leads to this big like, what the like, what am I doing?
Right.
But I didn't know this at the time. So I was trying to work as hard as I could. I was like staying late. I was taking home work with me. I wasn't making a ton of money and I wasn't like, I feel like strong enough in myself to be like, no, I'm worth this much. I was just always like, I'll do whatever. I was just so thankful to be here. And so all
of us were
yeah,
that way.
I mean, like all of us, I feel like anyone, you ask someone like their story of like their rate and stuff, they will tell you how they undercharged.
It was bad
for years.
Yeah,
yes.
No.
Yeah. And I feel like, unfortunately for me, I feel like I almost went from like startup to startup.
Right.
And I would say this joke that like, a year ago, I would kind of look at my career for the past like 10 years. And I was like, I have only made like my actual fair amount 3 months out of the 10 years. Like I've left so much money on the table. It was like infuriating.
Yeah. But that's part of learning, of being a new, unfortunately, I mean, it shouldn't be.
Sure.
It shouldn't be, but I'm saying it at all. Like obviously it's really screwed out. Like that shouldn't be the case. But you come out of college and they're like, well, we're going to pay them what a beginner rate is. But then it's really hard to jump from beginner rate to what you really should be getting paid for the skills that you have.
Yeah.
Or even knowing what you're worth is like, that's the impossible
Especially
question.
like if there are people, like people can unfortunately like not be great and like kind of bully you into lower rates, and you might not know if you don't talk to anyone else.
Yeah.
If you're just talking to like a producer or hiring, I don't know.
Right. And artists aren't known for self-esteem. That's not really our big thing.
No.
That's not our strength.
I have like heard of other people. Like I have a buddy that just like is like ruthless about like, no, give me more money. And I'm like, how do you
and that's how we all should be, but we don't realize that, and it's hard to learn that because that's a personality thing too. It's just like you have to have that kind of built in to some degree.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's tricky. So it was very roller coastery.
Right.
There were moments there, I think like you would go like 3 months without work.
Oh yeah.
And after winning an Academy Award, I was like, should I be doing this? Like,
right.
What? I clearly, maybe I'm not good enough if I'm not finding work. It was like some of the most terrifying moments, which now when I'm like talking to students and stuff and they see these dry spells, I'm always like, oh, like it happens.
I mean,
like
that's the
what's
nature
up.
of freelancing, right?
It
You know,
is
you
a
get
roller coaster.
it's a roller coaster because you don't have steady work, but you do get these jobs that come up, and maybe it'll be a 2-week stint or a month or 3 days
months.
or 3 months.
Yeah, or a day.
It could be any of those.
For sure.
And you know you're not going to have consistent pay. So then those day rates and knowing what you're worth, it matters so much more because you need to pay the bills somehow.
Well, now this is going into like rates and self-worth conversation,
Yeah.
and like, which I'm like very obsessed about. I was not raising my rate fast enough. And I remember at one point I was at a different studio, and another thing I really did love about freelancing is I would always like pick people's brains, and I was like, what do you think about this?
Right.
What about staffers this? Like, what has been your experience with this? Like, I loved being able to do that. And so one time I was like out to lunch with some buddies, and I was like, staff, freelance, like, what's the difference?
Right.
It's the same money. And they were just like, no, it's not. What are you talking about? And I was like, what are you talking about? And they were like, how much are you charging?
Right.
And at this point I was like 3 or 4 years out of school. And so they were like, how much do you make? And I think I was like $250 a day,
right,
in New York.
Yeah.
And they leapt out of their seats.
Yeah.
They jumped. And I was like, what's happening? Why are you reacting like this? And they were like, no. Well, yeah, okay. That's why you think that freelance and staff is the same thing. Like, because you're charging pennies.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. And it just started this whole conversation. I raised my rate from then on. But then I started to really talk to more people and be like, is this fair? How about this? Blah, blah, blah.
And that's the only way to find out. You have to talk to the other artists.
If someone's looking for a modeler of this quality, around how much can they make?
Sure.
That's the only thing.
Because at the end of the day, it is a job. That's the difference, right? We're passionate about what we do, which is wonderful, and we really care about what we're making. But at the end of the day, we still need a paycheck.
Yes. Yeah, but the thing that becomes so tricky is like when your job becomes your identity, and it becomes everything to you, and you don't have anything outside of that. And we could come back to this, but I remember at one point I was like hanging out with Eric and his sister, and she was like, so what are your hobbies? And I had this moment of like, I don't have hobbies. Like it wasn't like, I don't have hobbies, I work so hard, I'm so good at what I do. Instead it was like, I don't know. Like kind of freaked out. But yeah, it's just
every
like
hobby,
work,
every waking hour of your day.
It was like work. Yeah,
become
better, climb to the top.
And even once you finished work, you would still be doing personal projects too. On top of
that, when we didn't find work, we didn't have work, I was like, I need to be continuing to make stuff for my portfolio.
Right.
So it was never...
It's always in search of new work.
Yeah.
That's always the
goal.
Then
the art was always for work. It was never like a form of expression. It was never having fun. It was all about survival.
Right. So you freelanced for a while. How long were you freelancing?
I freelanced for 3 years.
As an artist.
And then I became CG lead at Nathan.
Right. And how was that shift from now, instead of doing your own work, now you're managing other people? Yeah.
Well, so the thing is, like, while I was freelancing, I think I was already moving into a place of leading people. Like there would be new people that came in, and like, I'm like, I love talking to people. Like I love helping people. So I was like, let me kick them off. I'll show them the pipeline. I already wrote up this documentation for it. I was already rearing and ready to go. So I would like take it off people's plates. At the time, Eric was the lead there. And like, so, you know, someone would come in and they would be like, oh my God, I have so much to do. And I was like, I'll do it. I can help.
Yeah.
I help. So, and then at the same time, like I would tell Joe, like, you know, I want to direct, I want to lead, I'll do stuff. Like, just put me in coach. I was like very like eager.
Right.
And what happened was like this big project came in. It was Nickelodeon, and like, it was Nickelodeon, which was really cool. It was very exciting. And it was Nickelodeon in a stop motion style, like like that. I was very excited about. And
that's so cool.
Eric was leading it because he was the CG lead. And then another even bigger project came in, which is also stop motion. It was for Sprite. with LeBron James.
Oh, yeah.
And so they were like, oh my gosh, we need to put Eric on that project because like that's the big one.
Sure.
And then and Joe was like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? And I was like,
put me in, coach.
I'm ready, dude. Yeah. So he was like, all right, Lizzie, go do it. And I was like, yeah. And I jumped in and it went so well.
Yeah.
It went well with all of us working late, but it all
Sure.
went like super smoothly. It was really fun. It was a good project.
Yeah.
I had wanted to work at Nathan so bad.
Yeah. That was your number one pick of where you wanted to be as a staff artist.
Yes.
Right. Which there's a big distinction there.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. I wanted to like be a part of a team and contribute to something.
Yeah.
Instead of just like checking in, clocking out.
Right.
I even like sat him down and was like, hey, I want a job here. Because I remember telling Eric, like, I want this. And he was like, have you even told him? Like, he might not know. Like, some people don't want staff.
Right.
So I told him and he was like, I don't have a job to give.
Yeah.
So then Eric pieced out and he was like, actually, he was like bringing me on as a staff artist and I didn't even realize it. But then like I signed the contract and it said CG lead. And I was like, oh no, I'm the lead. That's funky.
Yeah. But you had already been, that opportunity with Nickelodeon with the stop motion thing was like, that was kind of your like first step. I mean, even before that we had done, you had.
So like, I feel like actually working on taking the plunge like really helped me move into the position of a lead because I was the annoying person that was like, make sure you're like following the pipeline and like here are all the designs and here's the schedule. And I was like kicking off everyone, making sure like
you're organized.
I mean, like the whole job of the lead is like make sure the job gets done.
Right.
So yeah, so that like
support your team.
Yeah. So it like came very naturally. I really love like talking to people and being with people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did that for 2 years. And as a CG lead at a really small studio, I was also like the head character artist and modeler, which was really awesome. I think I started to like realize like, oh, modeling characters is like really fun and really cool. And they're also like really expensive. So I was like, I'll do it. I'll do all the hard stuff so we don't have to like outsource anything. Right. So when anything like really expensive would like come up that we didn't have a budget for, like simulating and like Marvelous Designer and these kinds of things, I was like, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
You just learn the programs.
Yeah. I was like, well, how hard can it be? Yeah, but I did that for 2 years and it wasn't, I thought like once you get the thing that you want, like, then I'll be happy.
Right. And
then I will have proved it to everyone. Yeah. And I was like, still depressed. Whoa. Yeah. So I was like, I was really down.
It's the story for a lot of people. People go like, that's the thing. I will prove myself and then I'll be happy.
And then I'll be
have
happy.
Money and I'll be happy.
Yeah.
But then later you find out it has to be internal happiness.
Well,
the external
you
things
find that
not.
out eventually.
But
at the time you're like, what's wrong with me?
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I felt like I was like stagnant. I wanted to become a director. I wanted to keep moving up and it just like wasn't happening. And I felt like I kept trying to do so much to prove myself and it wasn't happening. So I was just like very emotionally exhausted. I think like little things happened where like someone younger than me like came in and they were given an opportunity to direct. And after having put like 5 years towards this company, I was just like, it's not happening.
Right.
So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go freelance. Though, yeah, I learned so much at Nathan.
Oh, yeah.
And like, I have such a huge range of skills to the point that later on I could decide to start a studio because it was like, I can make, between Eric and I, we can make a full production. Like, it's insane. I went freelance. And because I then had the background of being a CG lead and having worked with all these people, like, so different.
Yeah.
I like doubled my rate and like the people were reaching out to me and they were like, hey, what are you doing? You want to come work for us? And I was like, where the were you?
Yeah, well, now you
like years ago.
now you have a network.
Yeah.
Right? Because now you've
exactly.
worked with other people. They know you. They know what work
Yeah.
you do.
And I
they
had a
go,
good body of work at that
Yeah.
point that was like very cartoony. Like the
Right.
studio is a very like character based
Mhm.
animation studio. So it was a lot of fun stylized work. It was
Yeah.
really cool. It was really awesome. Like, I mean, the fact that I made Patrick Star and Gary and
So
like
cool.
all this stuff is
Yeah.
like, it was awesome. Yeah, that was fun. So there were a lot of good projects, but then yeah, I left and I freelanced for 3 months before I was like, what if we started a company? So I started for 3 months and I doubled my rate and I was like, yeah, baby. I was like, this is money. Like, I like this. And then, okay, so when that started happening, Eric and I both freelancing, we were like, okay, like, let's start stacking bills. Let's start like saving, like, let's start dreaming. And we had a
Right.
moment where we sat on the couch together and we were like, what do we want in our lives? Like,
Yeah.
what, like, honest to God, what do we want? And I was like, I want to wake up in the morning and I make myself a coffee and I walk to my door and I open the door and my dogs run out and I stick my feet in dirt. And I was like, that's not gonna happen in New York. Like, what are we doing? So
Yeah.
we were like, you know what? We're both freelancing. Like, let's like hunker down and let's save up
Right.
for this like dream to
Mhm.
like move out one day. Eric is, he will never say this, but I put him along the ranks of like Pedro Conti, Victor Hugo, like amazing character modeler, shader, like can do so much.
Yeah.
And so well.
Mhm.
And he will never admit this, but like he's incredible.
Incredibly talented. He can
And
do
like
everything.
besides being creative is like technical and is
Mhm.
like the most level-headed person.
Yeah.
Eric and I had always, I mean, we have this amazing thing and we get together and we're very talented CG artists
Mhm.
and like we have a big range of skills. So I think within the first year we had already put together like a pitch deck for an animated short and we like designed the characters, we had the whole storyboards, we
Yeah.
had it all like good to go, we had the animatic, it was hilarious, and we modeled the characters. We didn't end up finishing the short, but we were always like building towards something. We always wanted to be like, I want to make a thing, like
Right.
I know that we have what it takes to like make something.
Yeah.
We kept like playing around with these ideas of like, what if we made like a company where like we sell assets that are like high-res images and essentially like mega scans. And we like go out and we take the photos, all that stuff. But also because Eric had such a great reputation of like, he's a problem solver and he gets done, and has a great eye. At one point he had worked with a company named Hopper and
Right.
they were like, we want to make this like holiday spot. We don't have the resources. Can you do it? And they were basically like, make this short in 21 days.
Right.
And
Easy task.
and Eric is like, oh, Lizzie, want to help me on this thing?
Eric is not from the South.
No,
But
no,
we'll-
but
yeah,
he was
we'll go
like,
with
We worked on this short for 21 days and we brought in Tom Shack to help us with animating, but we did everything else. And it was really rough. It was very hard. But because of our background as teachers and as CG leads, we felt like we had the infrastructure. We had perfected our spreadsheets. Like we knew how to run a production. And
Yeah.
we would say like, we are like in the position, everything has led us to this point that like we can do this on our own, remotely. And so we did the short and it was murder because on top of it, we were working full-time jobs.
Right.
So it was like, did not have a break. He essentially did that. And then he got reached out to again to make a bigger spot for a GDC intro.
And this was because, so he had worked with these clients before and the clients liked him and just directly were like, hey, why don't
Do it.
can
You do it
this?"
all. Yeah.
Instead of us reaching out to a studio.
Yeah.
And that's
honestly
kind of where, I mean, you guys always
slowly
wanted to
kind
make
of-
your own projects and
Yes.
kind of run your own thing.
Yeah.
And then this was kind of like,
Yeah.
you know, hey, here's an opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
To like prove yourself that you could do it. you
Exactly.
know?
We kept saying like, we want to prove to people that we can do full productions
Yeah.
on our own. So when we worked on this GDC spot, we needed more 3D help, and we needed someone that was very good with like motion graphics, UI interface, like these kinds of things. And we had been kind of shooting the with our other buddies, Christine and Damien. We really loved these two because they were always making stuff on their own as well.
Right.
So it wasn't like if we were to make something together, we would have to convince them like, hey, come on board and help us out. It was like they were going to do stuff on their own anyway.
Right.
So we might as well like
All
join
make the
forces.
same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we brought them on for GDC, and it was really, really hard, but it went really well. And we decided let's just split the profits like equally among all of us, even though like Eric was the one who brought it on and was he was like the lead of the project. It felt really good for all of us. Yeah. And then so this happened, and
that was kind of the seed.
Well, this happened like smack dab in the middle of the pandemic.
Right.
So I remember we were able to work on this because we were all fully remote at that point. And by the time we finished GDC, like no one was going into the office anymore. But we were all like, we have a remote setup because we've slowly been building this up.
Right.
And then it was kind of this weird thing where like, so Damien had a staff position at a creative studio in New York. Reps reached out to him individually and was like, we want to sign you as a director.
Oh, wow.
To have on our roster. But he couldn't do that because he was
at a studio
at a
already.
Staff. Yeah, he was a staff position at a different studio. So we were like, what if we just like make a website, make an LLC, and just be like, hey, want to sign Super Dope?
Right.
Instead. And we did that. We like threw together a website and like made an LLC. And I remember we were all sitting there being like, are we doing this? Like, is this a thing we're doing?
We're making
and we were
a
all
company?
just like,
we're making a studio?
Yes. And we just sent it to the reps. And we were like, yeah, you want to sign Super Dope? We do it all. And they were like, yes, this is amazing. And we were like, what is happening? So then the next couple of years was us kind of all transitioning to be full time.
Right.
The way we were able to start, which was really handy, is like basically Eric and I did a lot of like asset work of characters. Like people could just hire us to do the characters. We usually did like the hero characters and then sent it back, and the production studio would take care of the rest. And that was really good money. Christine wrapped up her freelance gig she was doing. She came on board. She was full time. And then the last one was Damien. He quit his job and he was full time. Super dope.
Wow.
And then because of the pandemic, we're all like, why are we paying so much to be in this cement box? We were like,
in New York,
if we had to,
or New Jersey at that point, but
Jersey City. Yeah, we were like, if we moved somewhere where like we had to make super dope work and we couldn't rely on, other studios to support us or work here, like it would probably be better. So we had a little thought experiment. And we kind of floated the idea to Christine and Damien, and we were like, what if we moved to Portland? And they were just like, yeah, we'll come with you. And we all just moved to Portland together and started a studio.
Oh, wow.
And that was the beginning of that. But what's so insane is that like I felt like I left Nathan. I was in a weird mental state. I worked 3 months and then I was like, let's start a studio. I think honestly another thing too is like there was a lot of frustration of like when a project wasn't managed well, the schedule wasn't well, it always fell on the artist.
Right.
Artists had to work late.
Yep.
Artists got gypped.
And that's
artists
still
had
the
a
case.
hard time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it felt like, from my perspective, I was like, why is this happening?
Right.
If there was a better schedule, I could probably do it better. I'm going to. So actually an important thing for us at Super Dope is we called ourselves the artist studio. It was like, we were always looking out for the artists. If there wasn't enough time, that's on us. That's not on the artist.
Right.
So we took, we ate all of our mistakes, and there was a lot of mistakes to be made because we didn't know what we were doing.
You're starting a company.
But we were like, it would be 7:00 and we would message our artists and be like, get the out of here. And they were like, no, it's fine. I'm like working on this thing. And we were like, no, it will not be that way here.
Right. Yeah.
Like no.
Nobody's ghosting hours. We're not doing overtime
No.
in that way. If you do overtime, you get paid for it, like that type of
Which
deal
I feel like when I hear of like other studios and the way they like came up, a lot of the time was like they were getting like cheaper rates from their friends who like believed in them and all this stuff. But like we didn't like that. We felt really terrible. There were people that were like, we want to like, there were so many people like after Super Dope that were like, I would have given anything to be able to work with you guys. I would have worked for free. That we were just like, no, man, like, that defeats the whole purpose.
Yeah, we're getting paid. We want everybody to get paid.
But also another thing is that like, God, in commercials, like all of us have so much talent. We can make such incredible things. And usually the clients have such taste. So we were just so sick of like making the same. Everyone wanted Pixar. Everyone wanted the Pixar Disney.
Everyone wanted Pixar style.
Yeah. And like we could do so much. So we were just like, you know what? Like it would be so awesome to have this like top talent in New York, like make ridiculous. So when we started Super Dope, we were like, let's make a short that looks Pixar-y and then is gross and disgusting.
Right.
And like makes us crack up.
It was your stylistic choice.
So, and it was also like our calling card. We were just like, hi, we're here. Like we're making children vomit. Let's go. You know? So
it's a great way to start an animation studio.
Yes. That was the birth of Super Dope.
Is there a project that you are most proud of working on?
I think because of my journey with like proving myself and feeling like I didn't see myself in the industry a lot, there was a moment I am very proud of, and I was only able to do it because of Super Dope, because my position there. So right before this project, I had been working for a job where we were making like these avatars for a VR experience.
Oh, cool.
And the way they were kind of testing it out was they're like, here's this person, can you make an avatar of them? And they were East Asian. And so we made an avatar of them, and it was being led by 2 white dudes. Well, the person at this company was a white dude, and then the people overseeing us, because we were brought in as vendors as Super Dope, he was a white dude. And so we made this avatar, and they were kind of just like, we're like scared that it's gonna like look offensive, so like let's just change her eyes. Essentially the solution was like make her look white, so that's a better solution. But I didn't feel like I could say anything at the time because like I was just an artist, you know. So like I was like, okay, the solution is just to like erase people of color essentially. So then at some point at Super Dope, we had an opportunity to work on a short for YouTube's Pride Week. It's called Cupcake. It was this really awesome short about, because unfortunately what happens also within the wedding industry is that some like ring creators or bakeries will be very selective and like bigoted about who they choose as clients. And so there was a lot of stories of same-sex couples being turned down for a wedding cake. So that's what the story is about. It was about kind of like these little wedding toppers coming to life and kind of reacting to a situation like this. We had this really tough situation technically where we had to make a ton of characters, a ton of like wedding toppers, but we didn't have a ton of time. We had to go through the process of like designing all these characters with a big range of casts. I really loved in this project that they were being very mindful of like, it wasn't like, here is an Asian person, here's a Black person, here's a gay person, here's a trans person. It was like, no, like an Asian person can be queer, there can be mixed race people. Like it's not about, it's like everyone exists in so many different complex ways. But there was a moment where we had, you know, certain kind of eye shapes and certain skin tones. And we reached that moment again where they were like, we don't know. We're like kind of throwing it through our like department that like checks for these kinds of things, like if this is appropriate. And they have decided like we should get rid of these East Asian eyes. And this time I had a seat at the table. And I was so upset And I was just like, listen, from my perspective, if you decide to like get rid of these eyes and make them white, what you are saying to me is that eyes like me are wrong, that they shouldn't exist. And like, I don't actually think what you're doing is a solution. I think we should have the eyes. And like, from my perspective, that other solution is harmful.
Right. Then it's not representation. You're not seeing what the world is.
No.
Yeah.
And as I said this, like my voice was cracking. I was so nervous. I was like, my pants.
Yeah.
But I'm just like trying to say this in a very like professional manner and just absolutely shaking in my boots. And there was a silence afterwards. Like no one said anything. And I was like, but then the team at YouTube was like, they were white people. They were like, we are so happy that you are here on this project and that you are able to like speak to your experience. And we're going to go back and talk to the team. And we think you're right. And because of that, like we were able to like get people with my kind of eyes like in this short. The thing is like they're on wedding toppers and it's so tiny in frame, like you don't even notice it. But for me, it was really important because I had been in so many experiences where all the people in positions of power were white men. And I was kind of like, ha! Like if that had been a white man in my position, like he wouldn't have been able to speak to it this way I have. Right. And so
you have a seat at the table now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like with Super Dope, like what I say is that like I made my own table. Yeah. And I put a seat down. Right. I was like, if no one's going to give me an opportunity, like I'm going to make my own opportunity. Yeah. Like it was driving me insane.
And that's what a lot of artists have to do at a certain point, you know, and even if it's just mentally, but you physically did it. You made a studio and you were like, I'm going to create a seat at my table.
Well, it's like no one's going to make me a director. Yeah. I will make myself a director, which now it's like sometimes Eric and I will be like, am I a director? Because it was kind of like self-title, but I'm like, yeah.
You directed films. Yes. Multiple. Yeah. And you are 100% a director. There's no question.
But yeah, so that moment was a very big moment for me in my journey because I was like, I need to be here. Right. And like, I'm doing something for everyone who looks like me and is struggling with this stuff. So that was really nice.
And that's huge.
And that was really powerful. It was a great moment. So that was nice.
I mean, that's the best story I could have heard about a project you're actually proud of.
Yeah.
You know?
I am, proud of that.
What a project to do.
Yeah. And then just like by creating that, like we're making a statement of like what we're aligned with and what we believe in. And a lot of around that time, it was when the pandemic
out of it too. Yeah. It's not just a straight, like here's a political stand or anything. It's like, here's artwork for you to feel something about also. You know?
Yeah. And like, it was during the pandemic or around that time, I think it was like 2022, where I feel like a lot of people were going through a lot of like inner turmoil and
there was a lot happening.
Issues. Yeah. Like I was struggling with a lot racially. And so it was a really hard project. I don't think any other studio was willing to take it on, only us youngins. Yeah. But it was like, I would do anything to work on something like this after working on so many commercials. And I have worked on commercials that like did the opposite.
Yeah, so commercials can get a little muddy depending on
working on pharmaceuticals and stuff. Like, it's just.
Yeah, I worked on a vape commercial early on and I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I want to do this. Yeah. Yeah. It seems a little wrong.
It just felt amazing to finally like do something that I felt like mattered. Yeah. And we were putting out this message and creating art towards it. And there were a lot of moments actually within the project. We had a moment where a character is supposed to put on a cupcake wrapper and like it's a skirt and they feel like very like just like themselves. But the way we played it from our perspective of not like, we don't know that feeling of necessarily like identifying as male and then like being able to dress up and like really feeling like you're like, you feel like you're yourself. Like the way we animated it was like way more flamboyant and like probably not aligned with like what an authentic experience like that is. And it was really nice to have someone on the team. We had like people on our team that were trans and queer and all these things that could like step in the way I stepped in. Right. It was like, I do not like this portrayal of it. Like, I think it should be more something like this. And it was really nice for all of us to be like, thank you. Like, yes, you, I don't know. I don't know. You don't know. Let's all like just
well,
be
and that's
at
the
the
thing.
same
No
table.
one fully knows, right? Like even
Exactly.
one person's experience
it's
is
just
totally
their
separate than a
experience.
different person's experience. But if it
Exactly.
rings untrue, then at
Yeah.
least you're kind of, you know, you can narrow and go,
Yeah.
okay, maybe this is a little bit more truthful. This is a little more
Yes.
truthful representation.
Exactly.
for
The
sure.
the important part is that like when I feel like someone's telling a story they shouldn't be telling.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like us, I think making a decision animation wise from a perspective of not having experienced that,
Right.
like that's the problem. But ultimately, like we wanted it to be a place that we could like come together and make cool art.
Mhm.
And like, yeah, I can go into this of like what was actually running a business, but like the pretty picture of Super Dope was that like, yeah, there were some times that like we were given a basic idea and they were like come up with like plots.
Yeah. Run with it.
And like
can be
our
creative.
solution to that was like it would be a Friday night. We would sit down. We would light up some joints. We would like have pizza or like Korean barbecue, and we would just like, what about this? What about this? What about this?
Yeah.
And that was hilarious. Like
Mhm.
that was very. I feel like I watched the documentary of like South Park, and like the idea of like sitting around with friends and like cracking up and writing together. Like that was like amazing to me, and I wanted that so badly. And that was part of what Super Dope was. It was a small fraction of it, you know.
You've created the company,
Uh-huh.
and then what is a day in the life of running a company like? Because you've been an artist, you've been a lead, you've directed, like you've done all these creative endeavors. Now you're doing a business endeavor as well as it being creative.
Yeah.
There's a second part to that. There's show business.
Oh, there's
you know?
like actually, I feel like the art is like 1/6 of it, and then there's like
That's
the
a small
sales,
percentage.
marketing. Yeah, like oh my gosh. So it's not sexy. I like actually running Super Dope was like not like an
It's
amazing time. Like
Mm.
it's a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
So there were some times that like I would actually be on the box and I would be an artist. But a lot of the times I was overseeing other artists, which includes like doing drawovers, like I was like the filter between the clients and the notes that came in, because sometimes clients like just say some like bull, and you have to know like what is possible and what's not possible. You don't just like let the artist get all of it.
Yeah.
Like the protectors.
Mhm.
So it's a filter there. And
Yeah.
It's delegating all those tasks.
Such an important job that is overlooked a lot, is that filter to protect the artist.
Because when we started to not get the filter, our joke was like we would get really angry. We would pretend we were stabbing our hands. We would like cut our hands open. We would be like, we would get like, at one point we got back like, I don't know, like 10 pages of notes, and we were just like, are you kidding me with this? And then we like lose our minds, and we would sit down and we would look at the notes, and we were like, oh, it's not that bad. But it's like still a joke that like if anyone ever says something ridiculous, we're like, yeah.
They're like, what if we change the entire thing? And you're like, no.
Yeah.
No, can we change some of it?
Because at the end of the day, we're customer service.
Right.
Like,
you're working for a client. They're the ones with the
Exactly.
money. They're the ones giving you the project. Yeah.
So I would like oversee artists. Sometimes I would be an artist. A thing that happened a lot is that like a client or agency would reach out and they would be like, we want to do this kind of project.
Yeah.
So we would have to, usually I was the one like actually sitting down. I would figure out an entire calendar. It's like, if you want this, then you want 3 characters and you need 4 sets, and that's going to take this much time. That's going to take this many people. And we're going to need, this is how the schedule is going to overlap, because then once the characters are finished being modeled, then they have to be rigged, and then we have to go into animation. And that could take so much time to put that together.
Yeah.
And then
it's a
that goes
full-time
back
job
and
by
forth,
itself.
back and forth. And like, it doesn't happen. You're not paid for that.
Right.
You just do it.
Yeah. And that's, what is that process called?
It's like putting together the scope and the bid. It's
The bid,
bidding for something.
bidding. Yeah, bidding for a
sometimes
project.
a pitch comes in,
Right.
which is essentially like the way it works in commercials is like a client has an idea,
Mhm.
an agency will come up with like some kind of campaign. It's like, I don't know, Coke is like, we're going to make this like green drink. And then the agency is like, it's green. We're going to spin it like it's an outdoor drink. And
Right.
like it's going to be targeted towards like kids, and we're going to do blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then they come to us and we're like, okay, so imagine like it opens on this shot and we're going to have these characters. Blah, 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 blah. So that's like how it goes down. An agency or a client doesn't like just choose a studio. They will kind of let 3-ish studios have at it, like battle to win the job, and essentially be like, hey, if you were to work for us, this is like basically what it would look like.
Right.
So we will put together a bid, a schedule, a scope, and like maybe do some tests, maybe do some designs, and
to get that
do
job.
free work to get the job, which is like really tricky too for Super Dope. Like we were doing really high end, like characters and productions, but we're this brand new studio. So like, why would you trust this tiny little studio as opposed to like Buck or Saya? A bid is always a lot of work. A pitch is always a lot of work, and it's again free work. Yeah. And so sometimes we were like, we have to get this together over the weekend or like tonight. So like we have to go, and like the 4 of us just have to jump into it. Then there was like, I did the bookkeeping and the finances. So I was keeping track of basically like all of our expenses, everything that we needed to run the studio, paying people, doing all the paperwork. We have our goals, we have our margins, like what do we need to run this place? How do we grow? Because they say like if you're not growing, you're dying. Right. And I would put together like the finance reports and kind of like update everyone on where they're at, take care of things. Because unfortunately for me, like I actually really love math, and I've always loved math. So when it came to the business side of it, I was like, let me do it. Because I also don't trust other people. Which is
also your consistent thing throughout your career, is kind of like, let me do it. I can do it. I'll figure it out.
I was like, let me do the math. The whole team was like, oh thank God. Like, yes, someone do it. There's sales, which is trying to get more work, which is like networking and talking to other people and being like, hi, we're Super Dope. Right.
This is what we do.
And then there's the marketing side of it, which is figuring out like using social media, like how do we put our work out there? And it's actually creating content for the social media and scheduling it, and like the copyright for it, and like what is the voice we're gonna have as Super Dope, and what's our brand, and like here's our website, and creating content for that. And so it's like,
it's a lot of things.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
And so now you guys are doing it. You're doing Super Dope. And then you did it for how long? You guys were like full force Super Dope.
So I believe I was with Super Dope for about 2 years.
2 years. That's a long time to be doing 6 jobs or whatever.
Well, it's also really tricky because it was like I was running it with my 2 best friends and my husband. I ultimately would become my husband. And there was no line. Right. Like it was Super Dope always, all the time. Yes. And ever when we hung out, we would be like, we're not going to talk about work. We're going to play video games. Right. And Super inevitably, yeah. And we were just always talking about it. So about 2 years, earlier than 2 years, I started to really start to have difficult times and really fall apart.
This is also the pandemic is happening.
There was a pandemic.
There's and now you're doing multiple jobs, more than half of which you've never done before and wasn't the thing you really wanted to get into.
Yeah. You know? And ultimately when I like looked down the line of like, what are we building here? Yeah. I was like, I'm putting my all in to make a commercial studio. Right. Like,
and your main goal was you wanted to be creative. You wanted to make projects that you enjoy.
I just wanted to be able to make cool work that I like. Yeah. But the dream is always like, but can I make money off of it? Right. I mean, that always turns into how do I monetize this? How do I monetize this? Yeah. Ultimately, I ended up stepping away from Super Dope, and then the rest of the team got aqua hired by Discord. Like maybe
aqua hired. So
that's like essentially, it's not that they buy the company, they buy the talent.
Oh, cool. Okay. But you decided after 2 years of doing a lot of jobs that you're going to take a sabbatical.
Yes. Well, so it was, it's a bit of a complicated thing. Like when I started Super Dope, we moved across the country. We started a new company. We made an animated short, and I think the rest of my team was like, wow, we're building something, we're doing something, blah, blah, blah. The narrative in my head was very different. Right. The narrative in my head was like, it's not enough. Because I think I just have, at this point, like no one even needs to say anything to me anymore. Like I'm making up the stuff in my head, and that's trauma. So
Trauma.
Yes. Trauma. I even like when Eric and I first started dating, we kept it a secret from people in the industry for a long time because I was just scared that people wouldn't take me seriously, or
Right.
like I would hear that dreaded, like, I hate this line. It's so disgusting, but
Yeah.
like it was something I was so afraid of. It was like, whose did you suck to get there?
Mm.
And I had been someone who had always been like the top of my class, worked so hard. We had a classmate that said to me, like, the only reason I got good grades is because I was a hot girl. And like that destroyed me. And it was so invalidating of
Yeah.
like, I've been working so hard to get here. And like, you're going to say that
Right.
it was just like nothing. I
It
just
undercuts
wrote some.
everything,
So by
yeah.
the time I like got to Super Dope, it was like, I was afraid all the time that someone was going to say like, I rode someone else's coattails.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I need to do more. I need to prove
myself.
something.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, and I just felt like I was like really struggling.
Yeah.
And so, and what was really awesome is when we started Super Dope, we were like, listen, like we're friends now.
Mhm.
The only way this isn't going to fall apart is like, if we have to keep communication open.
Yeah.
And so
Friends in business is always really difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I started to be very open that like, I was like, okay, everyone, I have depression. This is like a real thing. It's coming up a lot for me and I'm having a really hard time. I remember we had all like gone to a spa together, and we were trying to like relax for the new year. And Christine was just like, how you doing? And I was like, I'm not okay. Nothing's okay. And we tried everything. We were like, what if Lizzie got taken off the box and she just did like all admin stuff?
Right.
And then because we were still working in our own apartments, Christy and Damien, who had bought property in Portland, they were like, what if we'll clear this whole area and we'll make it like basically an office and we'll come in multiple times a week. Like maybe that will help Lizzie. Right. They were trying so much of like, what could make her happy? What could make her happy? Mm-hmm. And I just felt like I wasn't showing up great. Like I wasn't as like cheery as I used to be. Mm-hmm. I felt like I was always on edge of like crying, and I was in a really dark place. And I wasn't sleeping. But the thing is like, it's not that I suddenly reached this place with Super Dope. No, it wasn't Super Dope that broke me. This has been for a long time. Years. I think it was that classic thing of like, my family would, but I'm gonna have a kid, and I'm gonna make my own family, and it'll be all great. And then you're like, oh no, I just brought all my issues, you know. Mm-hmm. So I like came to Super Dope, and I was like, I'm still. So I was like, what was really nice is I was like, okay, I know that I'm capable of this. I know what it takes to do it, and I know that I would do a good job, but when I look down the line of like what I'm creating and the seeds that I'm planting, like, I don't think I want it. And it was like I've been swimming so hard in one direction, and I finally like lifted my head and I was like, what am I doing? Like, I don't know that I want this. There was a lot of stuff going on with my own family that was like, it was a lot. It was a lot for me to handle.
Between family stuff, pandemic, and
just
10 years of
trying
to prove.
More than 10 years because I was raised in very suburban Pennsylvania. So I've been carrying this for 30 years. Yeah. And so I remember saying to my friends, like, I haven't been working hard for X many years. I've been working this hard since I was 6 years old. Mm-hmm. Like, I've been trying to prove myself for forever. Yeah. And I felt like no one was like getting what I was going through. Yeah. And I remember breaking down to Eric, and I was just like, straight up, like, if we continue at this rate, like, I won't make it. Like, I don't know where my depression will take me. Yeah. And like, it's not going to be a good time. And we decided like I needed to stop working. I needed to like absolutely stop. And in order to stop, I had to freelance first to like make up funds because you don't start a business to make money. Okay.
Yeah. You put a lot of money into it initially.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, because we had started freelancing before and I was like, yeah, let's take over New York. We had built this huge nest egg.
Right.
And because of that, being really good with our finances and saving and being very purposeful, we were able to make the decision to start a company.
Reinvest in yourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. But I just realized I was like, wow, not my dream, their dream.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that was the thing. It was like the idea. I think I felt like my friends really wanted to do this thing and I had this opportunity and I would love to support them.
Right.
But I don't think it was what I wanted to do.
Right. And maybe it's something you discovered over time too. Because
and then it was like
there was probably a long time that was the thing you wanted to do. A lot of us wanted to like make, because you wanted creative freedom. You wanted to do these things and
I wanted to be
make
my own
a difference
boss
and be your own boss and all that stuff is stuff you want.
But that's the thing. And I think I also wanted to do a lot of work about like race and identity and like this struggle with mental health. I wasn't supported in the way I wanted to be when I was starting out. I want to be a mentor. I want mentorship to be a big part of Superdope. And it was like, that would be cool in the future, but we can't do that right now. So it was always like, I feel like I kind of know what I like, but like, that's not priority.
Well, going off of that, mentorship has always seemed like a big thing for you as far as you having mentors yourself and then being able to take all those mentalities and ways of doing things and thoughts in general and pass that on to people who are up and coming.
Yes.
Which I've always admired about you and I think is an awesome, I think that's an awesome trait to have that you want to share. I
mean, I think in general, I heard this somewhere, I completely forget where. It's this concept of like a triangle that like, in order for you to grow and just, I feel like exist in a community, like you have your people that are equal to you on your same playing field and you like kind of see where they're at. They will challenge you. You have them for context. But then you have your mentors that you pull from, they teach you. And then you have your mentees that you give back to. And there should always be kind of this triangle that you're feeding off of instead of it going in one direction. And I've always really loved that.
And you learn from the mentees a lot too.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh my, because you have to practice what you preach. You can't be like, you got to believe in yourself and like, no, your work isn't your identity.
Right.
And you're like, ugh!
You're like, wait, should I be talking into a mirror?
When I like started off in the industry, I was looking for someone to believe in me that I just don't think had the capacity to do it. And honestly, the people that did end up reaching out to me and taking me under their wing, they were people of color and they were women. A lot of women actually like really started to help me out and look out for me. And Eric was a person that was like, he was the one a lot of the times where if I was struggling with something, like he knew my background of like being honors AP, like always like top of my class. He was like, you are a very smart person. Like you can learn all of it. And so like for a moment, he was my mentor as well. For me, I think I will always come from the background of like, unfortunately, trauma and mental health issues. And so when I see other people struggling with it, there's something in me that's like, all I want to do is just I stumbled and I ate so much. And like, I hope so much that you won't. And I know everyone has to in their own way, but like, I also want to show that. So during my sabbatical, I got an important diagnosis, mental health diagnosis, and it's CPTSD. It's complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And when I learned about this first, they're like, people with this have a lower life expectancy. They like really struggle. It felt like really bad news when I heard it. And it felt like it all made sense. I was like, this is why I'm struggling with these things. This is why I'm triggered by these people in this way. This is why this is like very difficult for me and why I feel like no one is understanding what I'm going through. Yeah. But after I got through the pain of it, then it was like, I also have a lot of privilege. I have like this amazing opportunity to do incredible things and I am very driven. And so like, I want to be an example of someone who has this and is like doing well.
Overcoming it.
Yeah. And honestly, like I'm so sick of like the highlight reels on social media all the time. I think unfortunately I lean too heavily of like, watch how I'm up. And I think my own insecurities tell me that like I am painting a picture of that I'm like a super like unorganized mess of a person,
which is the opposite of what you are, which is
thank you. But the part of it is like I've had so many people reach out to me and literally say like I feel less crazy because of you, because of the stories that you share.
Right.
And like they're like, I'll share the dumbest sometimes on Instagram. I'm like, hey, I was just walking down the street and I thought to myself, I hate myself. Like, I don't know, something like this. And they will just, they'll be like this, like, I really needed to hear this today. And I have a moment before I post it that I'm like, what the am I doing? Like, why am I putting this out there? Like, but there's something in me that's like, just do it. Just do it. And then one person always says something. And I'm like,
and there you go. And then a lot of times you also put out like, you know, not necessarily like the other thing's negative, but you put out positive stuff of like, you can do this. do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Yeah. I feel like it's the mirror. I'm like definitely trying to talk to myself. But
it's the cheerleader, you know, it's like.
So I also took part in this like life coaching program, which was specifically for first generation women of color. And at the end of this like group coaching, we kind of went around and everyone like gave each other flowers and like told each other like what was really amazing about them.
Yeah.
And one of the things someone said to me was that like, I take up so much space when I enter a room, but it's not like it's in a way that makes space for other people.
Right.
And I like loved that so much. But another thing they said was that they were like, you are the biggest cheerleader for everyone. Yeah, like if someone needs anything, you're like, you got it. Like, let's go. Like, let's go. And when I heard that originally, I was like, what the like, I'm a cheerleader. Oh, I'm a cheerleader. Great. I was like, I can't even like cheerlead myself. Right. You know? So it was like, I struggled with that. But you are,
because you're hearing yourself say it to other people in a genuine way.
Yeah.
And I know it firsthand.
Like, love you, baby. Do it. Do it. You can do anything.
I know it firsthand from making a thesis film with you throughout the whole thing. You were the engine. And the rest of us were like, we're going to do our creative thing. And you were like, come on. Like it felt like you were just grabbing everybody and pushing forward in the best way. And I think that you doing that for other people, hopefully you're hearing yourself.
Hopefully.
And you're hearing it internally. And I think that that's such a positive influence on everybody around you, but especially yourself.
Yeah.
So hopefully you can keep hearing it.
I hope. I feel like the like bulk of what I am dealing with and what I'm trying to learn is like self-love and self-trust. I think a lot of like especially younger artists struggle with is like they think really low of themselves, right? Or they don't think they're worth it or they have a chance. And like I think a lot of my healing journey has been learning that like self-confidence isn't like being like I'm awesome, like this is
it's not
so
arrogance.
Dope. No.
Yeah.
It's not even like thinking like that, I'm pretty all right. Like I love myself. It's not, I'm learning that it's not that. It's actually, it's the feeling of like when it hits the fan, because it will. Right. That like you'll figure it out.
Yes.
It'll be okay.
Yep.
And that's like a very different feeling that I had to, I think, take a sabbatical to do because it was, I remember even saying to Marie, I was like, if I wasn't a driven person, if I wasn't a cheerleader, like if I lived in a hut, like, would you still love me? And Marie was like, are you kidding? What kind of question is that? And I was like, because I'm always a person that gets stuff done. But what if I don't get stuff done?
Right.
So I was like, what if I did nothing? Yeah. And so I did it.
Nothing.
I did nothing.
People still love you the same.
People were like, people were like, wow, you're even cooler now.
I admire that.
Because you just like said it to everything. And I was like, yeah, I'm brave.
And you took time for you, which is not something that artists do.
No. And I feel like especially, I felt like it is not something I've ever seen women do. And like, you don't see moms do it. Moms are all about like self-sacrifice and like it is the ship we're willing to die on, like how much we're willing to give to other people.
Yeah.
And it felt very much like to me, for me to stop and not contribute to my family and not support other people, it felt really selfish. It felt bad. But then another thing that I learned was that like
it was the best thing.
It was the best thing because I realized I was building a life of resentment, and I was getting, and like I come from a past of heavy resentment, and I've seen how much that like twists someone.
Yeah.
And for someone that like I've made such a conscious effort. I used to be like a really sad kid. People don't believe that I was very, very introverted. I didn't talk. One friend stopped talking to me at one point because they just said, you're too sad to be around. Like I can't deal with it.
Yeah.
So now what's so important to me is to be someone that like lights up a room and like at least make someone feel like I'm happy that you're here and that like you are powerful in yourself. Like that is so important to me. And like that mentorship, I think like teaching and helping people, that was the first time that I felt like I was like, what is this feeling? Like something came alive in me.
Connection.
And that was like, oh my God. And Marie again was like, I've never seen you come alive the way you are talking about like helping people.
Right.
So I don't know what it means. I don't know what to do with this, but it's that self-confidence of like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what the next steps are, but I feel like if I just like throw enough shit at the wall, like eventually something will stick. Something will stick. There is always this like sense of urgency. And I think it didn't help like receiving these accolades. It kind of reinforces the society we live in. That's like, get ahead, like 20, like 30 under 30. Like they did all of this before they were 20 years old. Like there's this urgency to be like, to accomplish all of these things so quickly. And
then once you get there, what do?
You hate yourself. So I don't know. I think I'm learning so much to like slow down. Like it will happen. There's time. And like it is worse, I think, to go down a path that like you're really not aligned with. Because you don't just waste time. You like, I feel like you start to like snuff out who you are. And then I feel like your whole life is about like actually figuring out like who you are. And like, wow, I should just let myself do the shit I want to do.
Right. Now, what are you up to now? What's the next part of your career?
Yeah. So I ended up taking 7 months off and it was wonderful. And then I just stepped back into freelance temporarily, like while I'm figuring things out. And I am like letting myself play video games a lot. I used to play video games so much as a kid. I stopped letting myself do that because I felt like it wasn't productive enough. And like it also felt like a boys club. But now I'm like, you know what? There needs to be more people like me in video games. Okay, I'm saying it. I will be that person. Maybe that doesn't stick, but I'm gonna try. So
you're gonna try to go into video games as
I think so.
career.
I think it would be. I mean, I'm very curious. Like I love games. It's just my happy place, and it was like where I found friends as a kid, even though I hid who I was. But I am like allowing myself to play so many video games and playing so many video games, and now I'm like building out an environment, building out a portfolio, and seeing what that is like. I'm also working on the YouTube channel and like trying to put out this kind of content.
It's an awesome YouTube channel.
Share. Oh, thank you.
And doing sharing your experiences.
Excites me.
Yes.
In the moment, which like I kind of want to make a video about how people should be corny. That feels important. I should exist in the world. Yeah. Whatever.
Well, because the videos that you're making, correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, you're making these really fun videos where you're sharing your experience, which sometimes is hard, but you are sharing it so hopefully other people can see it and relate to it and go, hey, she went through this. Maybe I don't have to now because I've learned this, or I have new tools that I can use in my experience.
I hope, because a lot of what happened in my experience was like I would express like I'm struggling with this, or this has happened to me, and blah, blah, blah. And I've just felt like like, what are you talking about kind of thing. And it made me feel crazy. So I want to put this stuff out there because I've heard so many times like, oh my God, finally someone is saying this. And like my students would always be like, no one talks to us about this kind of stuff. So I'm like, oh, I'll talk, as you can see. So I'm hoping to just put stuff out there because I'm trying to learn it at the same time. And
Right.
I feel like that is why teaching is so amazing. It's like, it's actually a form of me just learning.
Right.
And
While you teach.
yeah. So
the triangle.
I'm going to be trying to see what happens. I'm really into pickleball. I'm trying to be a 4.0 player.
Hey, there you go. You can
Maybe my career switch will be a professional pickleball player. That would be so cool. But who knows? You know?
Who knows?
I think it's that, like, we'll see what happens. I feel like instead of being like, oh God, I have to switch now. Like, what am I going to do? I'm trying to be like, it'll work out.
Excited about the future.
Yeah. Honestly, like it is ultimately like a good problem to have. And I do have the resources to have professional help and to have like support where I need it. And I know a lot of other people don't have that. They don't have the finances to do such a thing, or maybe they don't have the same support system. So sometimes a lot is just like, this is why I learned at therapy, because like some people can't afford it. And like a lot of these things are very important, and they've done a lot for me. So that's what I'm doing.
Awesome. So if people want to check out your YouTube channel, what's the name of it?
Lizzie Butt Poo.
Of course it is. It's amazing.
Yes.
Good. Well,
I'm an adult
yes.
doing adult things.
Yeah, like animation.
Yes. Jace.
Well, anyway, thank you so much for being here, for doing this, for talking with me for the last however much time it's been. And yeah, I really appreciate you. I respect you as an artist and a person, and I am so happy that you took the time to sit and talk with me.
Thank you, Nick. I do have to say, I don't know if I have told you this, but I feel like within SVA, I did deal with some, and you and Thaddeus were one of the first, I feel like only people that really made me feel like I wasn't good for a girl. Like I was just, you like respected me and treated me with respect off the bat. And like, there's a reason. Yeah, I'm so thankful that like my trauma experience didn't like go towards the most problematic people. Like somehow something in me was like, go towards him. Like thank God. But yeah, it made a huge deal. At the end of the day, like the impact you leave on someone is super important, and you've always been a really positive influence in my life.
Thank you.
So thanks.
You too. Yeah. And very proud of our film taking the plunge that has
did some
lived its own life. And that's amazing, and that's such a cool part of what we get to do.
We did some cool stuff together.
Yeah, and maybe again in the future. You never know.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching this episode of Nick's Friends in Film. If you like the show, please like, comment, and subscribe below, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much. Have a great day.